Welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the creative fairy godmother, and we talk on this show about creative entrepreneurs that are taking their path and turning it into a business or a creative opportunity, organization, all of the above. And today, if you are focused on well-being, becoming, embodiment, all of the things that really focus on being in your spirit and being in your purpose, you are in the right place. So today we have the beautiful, illustrious, many hat wearing Demarra West.
Hello, Amanda. You know, I am delighted to be with you. Like, I just love your larger than life personality. You just give me life, queen.
Listen, it comes from both sides because every time I see you, it's just like we did this, like, if you don't know, when you see us get together,
If you
you'll
don't
know.
know, you don't
You'll
know. And
know.
you need to know, right? They
Yes,
need to
ma'am.
know, Amanda.
So tell us what we need to know. Who are you encompassing all of the things, like all of the titles, but all of the like spiritual titles too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a social entrepreneur for the last 17 years. Became a social entrepreneur before I actually became a licensed therapist. So that was my first entry into the well-being space. When I started my consulting practice 17 years ago, I really did it under the auspice of wanting to ensure that accessible capacity building support was available to people that looked like us, right? And I find that a lot of our organizations are under-resourced. And, you know, I was in a management team meeting working for a nonprofit housing org, and there was a consultant working with us. And I said, you know what, I can totally do exactly what they're doing. Had no idea about the field of consulting and transitioned into that role. My first job was actually in Portland, Oregon, which is crazy because things have come full circle. And I've been back in Portland to do work and things of that nature. So from a well-being perspective, I, became a licensed therapist. Have been a therapist for the last 15 years now, and then meandered as a result of a program that I started called Be Well Beautiful Woman into the holistic healing space. And so, I always say that whatever we're seeking is seeking us, even if we're not conscious of what it is that we're seeking. And so when I set out to become a holistic practitioner, I did so under the auspice of wanting to ensure that women could center their healing and liberation so that they could lead and live on their own terms. And I provided a lot of different supports for people to do that: day and overnight retreats, group coaching, individual coaching. I hosted like 8 summits over the top of the pandemic. It blows my mind. Summits. I know, right? I'm just tired saying that, Amanda. And so that led me to become a yoga teacher, trauma sensitive yoga certified, a breathwork teacher, a meditation teacher, trained in emotional freedom techniques, which is also known as tapping, forest bathing. And then I started to immerse myself in all things abundance mindset. So I actually offer abundance mindset in a lot of different settings. And one of those is for entrepreneurs to lay the groundwork before they even get into the mechanics of what it means to operate a business. What are you walking in terms of your mindset, right? What is your relationship with money? What do you believe that you're worthy of, right? Because all of those things are essentially more important than the mechanics of business, essentially, right? Because if we can see it, we can be it. If we can see it, our actions are going to align with those things. So back to my saying earlier about like whatever we're seeking is seeking us. I thought that it was really about my work in service of the people that I know that I was put on this planet to serve. But what I realized that it was also about me and finding my own healing and liberation as a complex childhood trauma survivor that ended up birthing my book, Me Too, A Therapist's Journey to Heal, Find Liberation and Joy, which is about my lived experience with complex childhood trauma, having 8 out of 10 ACEs, 13 out of 15 of the expanded version, and the practices that have been most revolutionary to my healing and liberation, all of which are research-based and are used in my work in a myriad of ways for the people that I feel very sacredly called to be in service of. So I could say a lot more about my background.
I know, but like, let's take all of the beauty that is you in, like, oh my goodness, the work that you have done for yourself, for your people, for your ancestors, for your future lineage is, I told you before we got on here, I'm like already on the verge of crying, but like, wow, that's amazing. Like, you've done so many things, and you have so much more energy in you to create and build and birth things into the world. I can feel it. Like the second I met you, I don't even know how we actually formally met, but like I can feel it. We can feel it. We
Mm,
know.
yeah.
And I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited to see how this unfolds for you and continues to unfold. Cause like to go from to be able to just say, like, I have complex childhood trauma and I have turned it into a book, into a business. I have learned, I have healed, I have grown, I have outgrown, I have built a new version of myself over and over again is like, look at you. Look at
Mm.
you.
Queen, I appreciate that. There's this saying that I see the sacredness in you because you see the sacredness in me. And you're right. Like, I have no recollection at all of how we met, but I knew when I met you, there was an instant spark.
Yeah.
And we've continued to um, just be in each other's sphere, which has been really
Yes.
beautiful to witness what you have built and created. And we talked in detail, and we always talk in detail about all of the beautiful things that you are putting your magic on, right? Um, and two, in your way, you have also turned pain into purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of us
Yeah.
are called to turn pain into purpose, and to not do it in a way that's extracting, but actually to do it in a way that's uplifting.
Yes.
And that's really the beauty of pain, right?
Yeah.
Pain is designed to alchemize
Mm.
into something beautiful in the world that is going to not just curate light for yourself, right? But curate light for the world in whatever way that we're led to.
Mm.
And so thank you for saying that, because I too am proud of you and what you're curating and the
Thank you.
spaces that you provide for folks like me and folks from all walks of life that are entering in for different reasons, right? And they're all equally valid. And we don't know, right, the magic that is going to unfold when we are operating within our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to see that every day with your work. And I'm grateful that you are also witness to mine.
It's so good. And like as we're sitting here, I'm like, oh yeah, the revamp is a gateway drug to finding people like you and healing deeper because it's like a taste of what healing could look like, feel like, what it feels like to become. And then it gives the courage to take it the next level of what that work requires, which is
Mm,
a more consistent practice. So I am curious from like if I'm putting myself in the person who's listening's shoes, like if I
mhm.
am in a dark place, where do I even start? Like if I have all this stuff that's swirling, it's been swirling for my lifetime, and I just have this dark cloud following me around, how do you begin healing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we're in a time of global grief.
Yeah.
And of course, when we're talking about grief on a large scale, that's one level of pain. That's one layer of it. And then when you're talking about grief and pain on a more micro scale, it can look varied, right? It
Yeah.
could be someone who has had one traumatic thing that has happened to
Mhm.
them. It could be someone with a chemical imbalance, right? Maybe they've
Sure.
never endured trauma, but there's a chemical imbalance. It could be someone that maybe was never abused or neglected, but they were raised by caregivers that were emotionally unavailable for them, right? It
Mm.
hindering their ability to see their inherent worthiness, to connect deeply with other people, which is a part of our human design. Our design is to actually be in community with other people. And more than anything, our quality of life is rooted in the quality of our relationships. So, what I want to first and foremost say is that I want to normalize, right, the pain that people are experiencing, right, and for
Mm.
people to know that they're not alone. First and foremost, they are absolutely not alone. And the more isolated the world becomes, the more we're going to see people suffering in the midst of
Yeah.
that, because the more we become disconnected from self, the more we become disconnected from other
Say
people.
that. Yep.
What I also want to say is that there is hope out there. There are tons of pathways by which we can get to a place of healing, right? Even just getting a journal out and writing down our truths, writing down what we feel, it ignites a part of the brain that actually typing doesn't. Like writing in general is a very powerful therapeutic technique. But when we're writing pen to paper, it does something different to the brain. And so this is really important when we're thinking about somatics. Somatics is really about the extent to which I'm moving my body and I'm connecting my body with breath. And this is why practices that help to support us in slowing down are always going to be queen when it comes to our well-being. And a lot of times we're thinking of these very grandiose ways to be well. And I am very anti to grandiose ways. Now, don't get me wrong. I like grand. I like luxury. I like big and bold, but I also like very small, because it's the small everyday things that actually creates a sustainable well-being. I just read a stat that said that in order to receive the benefits of travel, we have to go on 7 trips a year. Who can go on 7 trips a year? Who can actually do that? That's not sustainable. But what is sustainable is that if you meditate for 20 minutes, one of the things that research shows, for example, is that it is the equivalent of 8 hours of sleep. Now, what I'm not saying is to replace your sleep with meditation. What I'm acknowledging is the power of slowing down. So even grounding in the grass, in the dirt, in the sand, getting into our breath 3 times deeply is going to help us to slow down, to get greater clarity. And so what I said all that to say that part of the entry point is being willing, to first acknowledge that there's a problem and you no longer want to feel this way, because you don't have to. You actually don't have to feel any less than joy. Even though we don't feel joy 24 hours a day, our design is to feel joy and is to feel peace. And there's a returning to joy and peace through consistent practices that help to support us in our advocacy to be well. And the last thing I want to say about this, Amanda, is that I focus a lot on sustainable well-being because I really want people to have practices that work no matter who they are, no matter what their financial position is, no matter what resources that they have at their disposal. This idea that we don't actually have to wait on anyone to start to access our healing. But there are times when we actually do need to access other people, where we do need a therapist, where we do need a trauma-informed coach, where we do need to work one-on-one with a yoga teacher or a meditation teacher, or show up for that class, if you will. And so there's so many different pathways. So the very first thing is acknowledging you don't want this anymore for yourself. And then B, it's about being in pursuit of the practices that are actually going to be most revolutionary, because even talk therapy is limited. I'm a therapist and I believe in therapy fully, right? But there are huge limitations when it comes to talk therapy and our ability to be well, because talking about something is not the same as moving energy out of our body that's in connection with the pain to begin with. It's not the same thing. No. And what the last thing I'll say is that a lot of times when we suffer, and unless it's because of a chemical imbalance, let's say our suffering is rooted in trauma or a non-secure attachment style, right?
Sure.
From caregivers. The reason why this is critically important is because it's not just the pain itself that harms us, it's the aftermath of the pain. If we don't have anywhere to put the pain actually gets stored in the body on a cellular level. And this is why when we're with a massage therapist, or we're on our yoga mat, or we get into deep breathing, we may have moments of like emotional release, because those are moments of the body releasing energy that's been blocked as a result of us not getting out the pain. This is why when we have traumatic events, it's critically important for us to get help as quickly as possible, because if not, then what it does is it creates suffering on top of the suffering. So girl, I know I said a lot, but I can talk about this all day long.
But I love it. And it's making me think of all of the times where I've been able to show up for myself in a practical way. So like, I was literally thinking about a video I wanted to record because over the summer, my body was like, I was feeling my body in a different way. It's just changing. I'm aging. My body is growing and becoming its new version of itself. And like over the summer, it was this like mental attack, right? And I started changing some of the ways, like unbeknownst, because it's been a lifelong of like practicing, like how I'm talking to myself, how I'm speaking to myself, the way I treat myself. Like I was my worst, like I was the person doing the most damage to myself for most of my life. So like I found myself being like, okay, I'm going to get a new lotion and I'm going to like bring back my lotioning ritual, right? I'm going to bring that part back. I'm not doing anything different except for the intention in which I lotion my body, right? So the thought that I have before I start the practice was so life-changing. Journaling again, jiggling my body around. I was literally thinking about it. It's like just a little jiggle will make you giggle. Okay. It's just, but that is so like, it's people think you have to like sign up for a class. You have to find a yoga teacher. You got to find a studio that's in alignment with your work and it's on the way home. Like just jiggle it out. Like just jiggle a little bit and you'll find that movement creates joy. I found this like, I'm going to put it in the links below, but I found this like very silly video. I don't know if, are you a Steven Universe fan?
I mean, I'm not, but it sounds like I might need to be.
Steven Universe is amazing. If you like animated anything, like Steven Universe is a kids show with like very, I mean, the crystal gems are his community of people. There's like amethyst and garnet and pearl. So they carry these characteristics that these actual crystals do. And they have some very complex conversations within this framework of the universe. But one of the episodes, they're like doing this like Japanese stretching routine. And they're just like on the beach doing it. And he's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And recently, I remembered that scene in the show, so minute, so small, so insignificant to the show, but I remembered it and I Googled it and a real YouTube video came up and it's 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's something that I do, like, I'm trying to do it every day just because it makes me laugh because the ladies are like, all right, and we're going to stretch 1, 2, 3. And it's like so silly and goofy. So like, I can't do anything but like laugh and move my body at the same time.
Yeah.
And it gets me set up for a different mental space than if I just like, okay, I'm gonna get my morning coffee. Okay, I'm gonna go to work. Right? Like those are two completely different spheres of experience that is a 3-minute shift. It's probably even less than that. The shift is I'm going to do this thing that makes me feel good.
Wow. And what you're naming, and I love, this is really, really timely, right? 3 minutes is nothing. 3 minutes is nothing.
Oh, but it's everything.
Of getting into your deep breath, setting an intention, right? And so when we're talking about these small but very significant practices for sustainable well-being, movement in itself, any form of movement is actually helping energy to flow through the body, right? Yeah. Any form of joy. And this is why your body of work is so beautiful because you can see joy like exuding from all of your content, right? That's healing. Yeah. That's liberation. When people are actually expressing joy, which is one of the highest forms of emotional expression that exists, that's healing and liberation. When we're engaged in deep conversation, when dancing in itself is healing, it's literally saved people's lives, essentially, when we're centering joy in practice. So what I want to say is that like, even your invitation in to like, talk about the lotion. Yeah. Like, I'm going to slow this process down to like enjoy. And what we're talking about is savoring, an experience of savoring. We can do that with so many things. We could be savoring an experience of getting dressed. We could be savoring that.
Oh, we could talk about that for 75 years.
You said what, Queen?
We could talk about that for 75 years because getting dressed is such a spiritual act. And I've been saying this for a long time. And I feel like my body's getting ready to start saying this on the internet a lot more, but like getting dressed is a sacred space. It's a sacred act. And it can be damaging because we are taught, especially as people who occupy feminine bodies and are in the feminine, we are taught to hate ourselves. by all of the marketing, all of the big brands to purchase this product to make you look thinner, to make you look younger, to make you look lighter, to make you look whatever, right? This is what we're hearing all the time. So we are programmed to walk into our closet and look in the mirror and hate on ourselves and then purchase the solution, right? So if you go through your closet and you're like, I hate this. I'm too fat for this. I need to lose 10 pounds to wear this. I need to get a boyfriend to wear this. I need the job offer to do this. And it happens so fast. You don't even know that you're doing it until you stop long enough to realize, like, if you go through every single one of your pieces of clothing and you hate everything, there is a tie to something so much deeper with that garment in your closet.
Wow.
But if every single morning you're like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate my body, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you're going to wear something that you're going to hide under. You're going to walk into the world hiding. You're going to walk into the space uncomfortable. Don't look at me. Don't see me. I don't like the way my body looks. I don't like this outfit. I'm hiding, right? And then next thing you know, you're like caving in on yourself and you're not showing up to things. You're not going, like the Grinch, where he's trying on all of the outfits in the movie. Like that is a perfect example of what happens in our brain when we're like, oh, this makes me look fat. Oh, this makes me look, I'm not going. Right.
Yeah.
And then you starve yourself of this experience of being in community because you couldn't find the right outfit to wear. But reality, the practice is wrong. And you're practicing negativity every single day.
Yes. Yes.
So I believe that dressing is healing and spiritual, and you're adorning your altar and you're adorning your sacred space with beautiful things because you deserve it. But it takes a shift.
You just took us we just had a whole sermon. You just took us all the way to church. And I felt that when you said that getting dressed is a spiritual act. And one of the things that bubbled up for me is that we need to have you teaching us about the sacred act of getting dressed. And I know you have all these things that you're building for your brand.
No, I love this.
I am planting one more seed for you because you are absolutely right. And I think what you just said is that if we don't look at the root, if we think that the clothes are the problem, then we are missing the fact that it's actually our connection to the clothes. Money's not the problem. People are not the problem. There is something that's blocking our ability to be in full connection with the beauty of whatever that closet is. And if those aren't the right items in your closet, then we want to do the next work so that we can find those right items so that when you put those things on, you feel like more fully who you are. I think clothes should make us rise, right? Makeup should help us rise. Accessories should help us rise. And what I want to say really quickly too, and you said it so beautifully, that one of the antidotes for us being well is being mindful about what we say and think about who we are. And so oftentimes we're externalizing our worth. If only I looked this way, you said it. If only, I was snatched in this way, if my hair was this way, if my eyebrows were this way, if I had the right man, if I had the right job or woman, whoever, whatever you roll with. And so what I want to say is that self-compassion is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves. Be aware of what we are saying out loud and to ourselves. And if our messaging are not messages of love predominantly, then that's our work. The reframing is the work every single time. And we might think that reframing is hokey. It's actually not. The brain doesn't know the difference. The brain actually doesn't know real from fake.
Yes.
And so the more that so there is this truth to faking it until you make it. And if you sit with a message long enough, and let's say that you struggle with love and you sit with, I love myself, I am worthy. And you sit with that 21 days, you start your morning with that 21 days. And every time you have a negative thought that comes into your mind and you replace it with those thoughts, I guarantee you are not going to see yourself the same.
Oh, you're going to be a whole different person.
Girl.
Yes.
100%. Your brain is now going to be rewired towards positivity just from those 21 days of practice. You're going to see yourself completely different because you won't be the same anymore. as a result of this practice. And so I love that what you're naming and what we're talking about is really, there is sacredness in everything, but the sacredness begins from the inside and it permeates out. So if we want to have a better life, that's where we have to begin, and that's where we have to end, over and over and over again.
Oh, and it's so simple, but it seems hard.
So hard.
If you've never practiced it, and I try to think of it like this, like you're not going to walk into a gym and deadlift 150 pounds on the first go. You're going to be like, this is hard. And then you're going to show up to the practice every day. And then eventually you're going to be able to do that deadlift. I feel like healing and well-being and joyful experience is the same thing. And when people say it's a practice, that's what they mean. I practice being like, this makes me feel good. I love my body in this. I did not start off that way. I did not start off that way. I was my absolute worst critic. I would say things about myself that like I wouldn't even utter into the earth in any point, so that not to taint somebody's way of thinking about themselves. Like it was at a level that was so dark that I was literally putting people in my life to act out the abuse that I was feeling for myself. So, I mean, it did not just happen, and it doesn't just happen. It's a practice. And if you're practicing joy when you go on vacation, guess what experience you're going to have. If you're practicing stress and anger and self-loathing and you go on vacation, guess what experience you're going to have. It starts with the baby. It's the baby things. Yeah, it's the baby thing. It's the tiny, so seemingly insignificant things that are the most important.
Yeah, it's like the pebble, right? The pebble in your shoe. You can't get comfort until the pebble is out of your shoe, And so I love that you are naming this as these micro practices, right? Getting on your yoga mat doesn't make you a yogi. It's actually how you live your life. It's how you show up in service. It's how you see yourself. It's how you act in kindness towards other people. It's not actually the mat. It's how the mat in the principles that show up on the mat show up in the world. Yeah. And life is very much like that. And I love that you're talking about a practice, because I think that many people still want to arrive at this place, right? Sure. They want to say, I've done the work. I've lift the weights, but you can get to the point of 140 pounds and still have to practice. You could be at a weight of 140 pounds and then have to go back to 100 pounds, because that's what it requires you to move to the next level in your life. So this whole fallacy that we shouldn't have pain, part of our work is understanding that the human condition there's suffering in the human condition. We're not supposed to stay in a state of suffering. But if you believe that you should never suffer in life, that hardship should never be, then you're actually getting it wrong, because the hardship is actually there to sharpen you. I'll never forget watching a video where Erykah Badu said, if you ask spirit for more radical love, baby, you're gonna have to find some opportunity. There's gonna be opportunities that show up for you where you have to act in radical love. You're gonna cross some difficult people in the midst of that, because acquiring knowledge is not the same thing as having an embodied practice. And the only way that knowledge can transfer to action is if we're given opportunities to act in accordance with the very thing that we say that we want. And so, we say we didn't ask for this, but the reality is that everything in our lives is something that we ask for, even in the case of trauma, right? We didn't ask to be traumatized. We didn't ask to have caregivers that could not give us security, to give us the gift of having a positive sense of self. Yeah. But unfortunately, if we want to be well, then we have to now do the work to heal. And if we choose not to, it's okay that we're making that choice, but we have to understand that in part what you were talking about earlier, like your words, you were causing yourself a hell of a lot of suffering, and probably way more suffering than the pain that was endured from whatever traumatic experiences that incurred, right? Because a lot of times and we know this, until we heal from something, it has to go somewhere. And either it creates a war within ourselves or it creates a war with people around us, right? And sometimes a combination of both of those things. And so,
Yeah.
yes, the work of healing is the most challenging, the most difficult work that we will ever do, but it's also the most beautiful work, because what is more important than rising into self? What's more important than discovering what our purpose is? What's more important than like being able to have joy and peace? Like, you can't even quantify
No.
the value of these things in life. It's impossible. You couldn't quantify it if you tried.
Mm-hmm. And it's making me think, like you were talking about enduring suffering, and that's part of the full breadth of experience of being on this planet, to experience all of these feelings. And it's making me reflect on the last couple months where I have taken this leap of faith into my business. And there are moments I feel like I've set myself up for failure, and I'm in the work and I'm feeling like, what did I do? And I'm feeling this like fear and angst and uncertainty, and like in my current body of feeling and experiencing joy can feel like suffering. But I know that I need to go through this challenging space to get to the other side. And I would much rather do the work that it takes to heal and to experience like my full, most embodied self, that can bring up some past suffering and can create myself some challenges to work through that can cause some suffering, than doing the suffering on the other side. Because I've done the suffering on this side that leads to more suffering, versus like the work and the challenge and the sweat that it's going to take to get to this side of full embodiment and full life experience. So like, even just like having this conversation with you, it's making me think like, either way, we're on this planet, and part of being on this planet is experiencing joy and experience suffering. But the question is like, how do you want to do it? How do you want to do it?
This is so good, because at what you just said, like what plight of suffering are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the suffering that's actually going to help you get to your destination? Or are you going to choose the suffering that's actually going to keep you stuck?
Right.
Like, either way, it's pain. But actually the discomfort that comes along with new is a different kind of pain.
It's different.
We know that is a different kind of pain than sitting in old shit.
Yep.
Right. And again, there's no judgment about this. I want to be really clear, and I want to be gentle and loving about this, because it can be very difficult to come out of the comfort of our suffering. Let's be real. There is comfort in our suffering, even when there is discomfort in the suffering. So you just gave us so much wisdom about our choice and about the power that we have to co-create our lives. And there's a saying that goes something like this, that if we're happy, we can expect that it's going to cease. If we're suffering or mad, we can expect that it's going to go away. If we're sad, we can expect that that's also going to go away. In other words, emotions are always ebbing and flowing constantly. And so I use the emotional guidance scale in my work often, because I want people to understand, we have 22 normal emotions that we all experience. We all feel jealousy sometimes. We all feel sadness. We all feel depression. We all feel anger. We also feel optimism and joy and peace. But the goal is to not sit in those lower vibrational emotions that cause us harm. But the goal is to have an experience, to get curious about it. Okay, I'm feeling this. Like you said, Amanda, like, I'm feeling this right now. What is this? What is it teaching me right now? Why am I having angst about this? Why did I feel jealousy in that moment about so-and-so? Why am I questioning my advocacy? Why can't I receive compliments about myself? There's a quote that I've been using a lot by Swami Kripalu that says that ultimately the highest form of spiritual practice is to observe oneself without judgment. So if we want to be well and we want sustainable well-being, we're invited always to observe thyself. It's like we're having this lived experience, but we are actually on the outside of ourselves constantly being witness, and then also deciding from that point the extent to which we're going to be curious about that thing. And then inviting in courage to do something about that thing if we need the courage to actually address it. And so that's the work. And I don't want to say that this, as you said, I don't want to act like this is like super, super easy, but it's actually not super, super hard either.
That part.
But it's
And
actually not.
it's like once you face it, once you like approach it and start to play in it, and I think that is like a word that's not used enough, but play. Once you start to play in it, once you start to play with yourself, play with your dreams, play with your experience, play with your friends, like it becomes easier. But if you are avoiding it, it can feel scary.
So
If you're like, oh,
scary.
I don't even want to come close to this. I don't even want to like, oh, it feels too hard. It's too much work. It's too much pain. It's too much this. It's too like, then you're going to make it into this big, huge thing that's unattainable and untouchable. Right. But I think it's the play. It's play and the love of play and the love of people and the love of yourself. But you said something so real that I feel like I learned in my early 20s. It's observing thyself.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I could observe that I was like tearing myself to shreds every day while I was getting dressed. It wasn't until I actually was like stopped long enough to be like, oh, that was really me. Just acknowledging that I said it, just acknowledging. And I feel like if you're watching in this and you're like, how do I get there? Like just saying it out loud. If you're like talking about your body negatively and saying it out loud and just sitting in it, you don't have to do anything with it. You're not going to be able to do anything with it at the beginning, but just acknowledging that you're like, oh, that was really mean.
Yeah.
Why did I say that? And then just leave it. Just walk away and leave it. But if you can start doing that, it's the practice. It's the play of the practice. But it definitely, like when I first started acknowledging it, like the first time I ever said I love you to myself was so weird. It was I was at the lowest of my lows and it just came out of me. And I looked in the mirror and I said it, and it felt like I was wearing somebody else's skin. It felt weird. It felt gross. It didn't feel like me. I felt fake. I felt like a fraud. It felt like and I was like, oh, that's not real. But like, it was a moment of acknowledging myself. I was like, oh, that's interesting that I feel that way. Okay, that was weird. Oh, wait, and then just keep the act of practicing that. Like, I'm gonna try that again. See what happens. I love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, this is I really appreciate also that your willingness to insert your own story, right? And your struggles, because it's so important for us to normalize the realities that people are faced with and how difficult it is to obtain these things. And, as a survivor, and particularly as a survivor of sexual assault, with my first attack happening when I was about 6 years old, I was really out of my body for a very long time. Yeah. And that showed up in lots of ways. And one of them was having a false body image. And so it took me years and years of yo-yo dieting and coming in and out and not feeling, and even to this day, like I don't look at I struggle with looking at myself in the mirror at times. I struggle with looking at pictures. I struggle with somebody might say, oh, you're so photogenic. And I look at the picture, I'm like, well, I don't know what you saw. That's not what I'm seeing in this picture. I actually don't look very good in this picture. So the practitioner, people assume, well, the practitioner doesn't have these struggles. No, the practitioner has these struggles because the practitioner is also a survivor. And so part of our work is to humanize the experiences that we're having. And I look forward to the day when I can receive that. I look forward to the day when I can look at myself, and I'm getting there. There's been a lot of work around, and my actions now congruent with how I take care of this vessel that you so beautifully talked about, right? The adornment of all the beautiful things. But also doing the internal work so that I can understand the beauty of this body, just as it is right now, right? Now, if my body changes down the road, then so be it, right? But can I love myself right now in the body that's in my shoulders, my chest, my elbows, my knees, my ankles, my feet? I oftentimes say that I, have like Flintstone feet. My feet are very flat, which is true. It's just a fact, right? Like Neanderthal-like feet. I've got about 3% Neanderthal based on
we gonna fight,
right?
We are gonna fight. Okay. We're gonna fight. You and me are gonna fight right now because we're gonna fight a couple things. We're gonna fight emotionally in the most loving way, because it's the I'm 3% Neanderthal and everything that comes with that comment. Your feet can be flat. That is probably a fact. That is what they are. I have a size 22 body. My stomach is sitting on my legs right now. I have a fat body. That may be true, but I'm not saying I look like, I'm not adding the extra narrative on top of it that comes from a place of self-hatred and comes from a place of, and I'm not saying that you hate yourself. That is not what I'm saying. But what attachments does your body have to that comment? Who told you that? When did you first hear that? When did you first start saying that? And what does that actually mean when you're saying that about yourself? And when you're looking at your pictures, that was a big thing for me. When I was looking at my pictures and the nitpick, right? The nitpick that starts happening. Oh, there's hair on my chin. Oh, my belly is this. Oh, I look like I don't even have a neck. My body, like, and I was watching myself nitpick at myself. And one of the things that I try to do, and I encourage you, Demarra, to do, is the next time you see yourself in a picture and you start nitpicking, have one good thing for every nitpick. Just one good thing for every nitpick, and see if you can slow the train down. Yeah. Because it's a runaway train.
Come on now. And it is. And you know what I'll say is that I think the opposite of the nitpick, and this is more resonant for me, is the unwillingness to look to begin with, the unwillingness to look too closely. That in itself could also be the avoidance of a thing, can actually be a trauma response, right? Yep. Because we refuse to look at, we don't want to look at something that might cause us discomfort. And so I welcome that invitation for myself. I welcome that invitation for all of us, so that we can rise more into loving this beautiful frame that we have been given. And it is beautiful, however it is, whatever size it comes in, whatever elements, whatever, aspects of you that you want to accentuate, or the flat feet that you have, right?
Because listen,
right?
Your feet may be flat, but you are walking into rooms and claiming your space and saving people with those feet. You're walking in your purpose. You're walking into rooms. You're walking towards the future. You're bringing people with you. So the feet may be flat, but they are stomping on this motherfucking ground.
I love all of that. And what you're naming is how we can take anything that we may have a negative connotation to, or any messaging that we have absorbed about ourselves that's negative in nature, and we can reframe that thing.
Oh yeah, it's allowing you to stomp fully on the ground.
So I love that you just gave me a whole story about my feet and where these feet, because you're right, baby. The miles, the impact, come on now.
Yes. You are making it known when you walk into a room that you are there, because you are here to shift energy. You are here to heal people. And so you need the full breath of that foot in the ground for the room to feel it.
I'm receiving that. I'm taking this with me, and I'm probably going to be taking this story on stage somewhere.
Take it with you.
I feel like I'm always speaking about something, but real talk, I know, like, I'm having this moment of feeling inspired, and that's the beauty, right, of these conversations, because we don't know what it's going to ignite in us, what new awakening we're going to have, what new tip we're going to be able to walk away with. And so thank you for helping me sit more fully, and in the case of my feet, stand more fully in my power and these spaces that I know that I've been called to support, period.
Oh, I am so grateful that we got to go here. I knew we were going to get deep real quick, because we could do a lot in an hour. And I just feel like, where can people find you online? Where can people take up your content, absorb you, learn more from you, work with you? Tell me all of the places.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to check out the book and speaking and trauma responsive support for organizations, individuals, and well-being in general, that's DemarraWest.com. And then my nonprofit is Be Well Beautiful People. And so folks can find that on just bewellbeautifulpeople.org, spelled exactly the way that it sounds. And then the Instagram is just at Be Well Beautiful People as well, spelled exactly the way that it sounds. And then I also have just started to do some Instagram stuff with my personal brand, Demarra West. So that's just at Demarra West. So those are the main ways that people can connect with me. And then, of course, we've got this podcast. You're going to be on my podcast soon as well.
And
so
you have your podcast.
I know. I'm excited about that. So the Be Well Beautiful People podcast is on all major platforms as well. And those are all the ways, Queen.
I love it. Okay, I hate to end it,
I
but
know.
I feel, and this is not an ending. This is part 1 because part 2 is happening on your
Part
podcast.
2. Yes.
So I'll put it in the link below as well. But before we leave for this particular session, what is the last piece of advice you want to give to our listener?
Yeah. The last piece of advice I have is to center your well-being and healing and liberation above all. I invite you to not go one day without being mindful about how you are nurturing your mind, your body, and your spirit. And even if you just take 5 minutes every single day and you do that every day consistently, you will start to see some shifts happen for you. So just try it on. Be willing to enter in to spaces that you've never entered in before so that you can access a life that you didn't know you could even access.
Oh, I love it. And I love you so much.
I love you too, Queen. This has been a gift.
This is so good. I'm ready for the day. I'm ready to take it on. So I hope that you listening have gained something from this conversation. Drop your own tips below. If you learn some ways that you are healing yourself and practices that feel like play and joy and expression, I want to hear about it. Drop it down below. We are so grateful for you, thankful for you. I appreciate you being here. Go out in the world and be magical by being yourself. I love you. It's Amanda Sweet, the creative fairy godmother, and we'll see you next time on the Let's Glow Show.
Ashe.